my name is Irene and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I talk about my opinions on books and hopefully I can give you a few good recommendations. Before I get started, I'd just like to ask you to please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So, this is going to be my review of the Song of Ice and Fire series. The 5 books that are currently out. I know there's a 6th that will eventually be coming out, but it is not out right now, and I just finished the series that is out so far this month. And I, overall enjoyed it, and I'm going to go more in depth with that, but first let's go through the ratings. I gave A Game of Thrones 5 stars, then I gave A Clash of Kings 3 stars, then I gave A Storm of Swords 4 stars, then I gave A Feast of Crows 3 stars, and then I gave the last book, A Dance with Dragons, I think it's With Dragons, yeah, With Dragons, I gave that one 4 stars, more like 3.5 stars. So I'm going to start off by talking about the structure of the series. So each chapter is a point of view of a different character, and I thought that was a really good way to the series. I don't think it could have been done in a better way involving that, because we follow all the main characters like Robb, Arya, Sansa, Catelyn, I don't know how to pronounce it, I think it's Catelyn, I think maybe follow Joffrey. But we follow the main characters and they're in different parts of the world, and I think that helps us really see what's going on in different areas, because this is really kind of a series about kind of like political problems, and also along with, you know, it's an epic fantasy world and it's about like survival and all of that. So I thought that the different perspectives were really good, and it helped more in the beginning. So the first book is probably one of my favorite books I have ever read. I thought it was well done. I was never bored or anything, but then as the series went on, I became a bit more bored. I think my main problem is that as we got further in the series, there became a lot of perspectives of characters that we didn't actually know, that weren't main characters. They were just in random perspectives, and that really threw me off. It really took me out of the story every single time because I wasn't interested in these random people's perspectives. And I think it did that more the farther along in the series. Like this one, it did it the most of all, just put us in perspective of random characters. And it might have been needed to be done, but I don't really think so. I think that it could have been better if it just followed like the main characters that we have grown to love over the series. So that's my opinion on that. And then also, since we're talking about structure, the 4th and 5th book are kind of separated in 2, so they're kind of these both take place right after the 3rd one, but they split the characters in half. So this followed more of like King's Landing, and this followed the rest of the world. So that's how that was, and at first I was really confused in this one because I was like, where are all my favorite characters? Because Daenerys was missing, and you know, a bunch of others. Jon was missing, so I was really, you know, confused. But then we got them all back in this one, and we also got some same perspectives from this one. So I think that needed to be done, but my main thing with this series was I feel like each book was too long. I think I would have enjoyed it a whole lot more if they were cut down a little bit. I think that at points it just dragged on, and we saw kind of pointless scenes happening between people that didn't seem important to the overall story. And then there were so there were scenes that did that, where it was just like very like slow and dragged on, and then something crazy would happen, but that would happen in 3 pages, and then the long dragged out scene was like a chapter long, just like a huge long chapter, 20 plus pages of something that wasn't really that important. And then when something huge happens, like something pivotal to the entire series, it was like done and over with in 3 pages, and it really, kind of surprised me every single time. I was like, I want to get back to that. I want to know more about what happened to that. I want more details. And I feel like that was kind of missing. And that happened throughout the entire series. That never changed. And I don't know why he did that. Maybe that's just his writing style. But I didn't really like that about it. But overall, the structure was good. The writing at times was kind of boring. I think it would help to know the series beforehand, like maybe look at maps and maybe really familiarize yourself with like the different houses and the people, because I think that might help, because a lot of parts can be kind of confusing, like what are they talking about, why are they talking about all these locations and all these people and you don't know who they are. But yeah, that's how I feel about the writing and the structure. Next thing that really made the series for me was the characters. That is the most important part of this series to me, because I feel like each character was extremely unique. My favorite characters was Tyrion and Daenerys and Arya. I thought they were great and I just liked watching them develop and grow. And some of the characters that were more, I don't know, evil or bad in the beginning, you can kind of see the redemption depending on which ones, and I thought that was so well done. I thought he did an excellent job with the characters. I felt like each one had a personality and their own qualities and their own interests and their own desires. It was great. The characters were completely 5 stars. 5 stars. Each character, I think there might have been too many characters, but the main characters I absolutely adored, and I thought it was a great part of the story. Next, I'm going to talk about the world. Now, the world is great. I think that can be confusing about where different places are and what is happening and the significance and learning about all these different cultures, but I think the world was great, and I love watching these characters travel across it and encounter all different types of people. I love the idea of like the wall separating them from like the wildlings and like these creatures of the night, and I thought that was very interesting, and I liked exploring the King's Landing and then watching Daenerys and the other side of the world figuring out her own thing, and I thought that was all great. There is nothing really bad to say about the world. So the world was also 5 stars for me. The magic was limited. It wasn't as much magic as a typical fantasy book, but there was dragons, there was like a fire god, there is being able to see in the eyes of an animal when you're a human. There were those magical aspects, but it was very limited and only happened rarely. I think the most magical part of this book series were the dragons, who are there quite often in pretty much every scene with Daenerys, but the magic is limited. It's kind of like an anti-magic system, but it's still there. And also the religions and like the beliefs and the gods, I wish that it explained kind of more about that, because they would mention it in passing, because it's so ingrained in their system that they just mention in passing, because we don't really have to explain in our world about the different religions all the time in different cultures when it's always been there and don't really have to explain it. So with them, I feel like it was kind of the same thing, but I also wish we could have delved deeper into that. But anyway, I thought that those type of aspects in the series were good, and I didn't really wish for more. Even though I'm used to reading more magic, I didn't really need that in this series. I thought it was well done by itself. Now, the plot. The plot, I felt like, as I mentioned earlier, kind of dragged on a bit. I feel like it was not as interesting as the characters, the world, the magic, and everything else. But, you know, it was there, and it was kind of, the plot was more kind of settle and was just like happening constantly, but it was more character driven, at least to me. I think this was a very character driven fantasy series. But you know, the main plot is who is going to sit on the Iron Throne. And all these people are kind of fighting for the Iron Throne. There's many kings or wannabe kings that are trying to get it. There's many different situations. There's Daenerys, who thinks she deserves the Iron Throne. There is a ton of situations. So it is kind of complicated, and then there's like many plots, many romances, which I loved, by the way. I think all the mini romances. I don't think there was anything that I was against, really. Besides, like, maybe one relationship that was a little bit incestual. But all the other relationships I thought were great. And there was a bunch of, like, mini subplots and different situations, but it was all going for this one goal. Like, this whole series was watching these characters, you know, kind of like figure out how to run this world, you know. So that is what I think on the plot. Now, for my overall thoughts. Before I go into that, I need to explain something real quick. I watched the TV series before I read these books, and I think that probably changed my view on it quite a bit. Because I saw these characters as the people from the series. So maybe the reasons why I connected so much with these characters because I already knew them from watching them, and I already had, you know, those actresses in my head when imagining these characters. That being said, I'm going to probably say something that's a little bit controversial, but I did enjoy the TV series more. Now, the first book I think was better than the series. I thought it was amazing. I really loved the first book. I really connected to it. I was never bored. It was entertaining the entire time. I loved it. But then as we got farther into the book series, I got more bored. It felt like it was dragging on too much in areas, and they were focusing on areas I did not care about as much. I wasn't as interested. They were kind of following characters that weren't as interesting at points, and there were some situations where you know something very interesting is going on with the character, but then their perspective won't even be in the book, and then they'll show up after the fact, after the very interesting thing happened to them, and then I just feel like that made the stories like a little bit more boring. I wish I would have saw certain situations, and I got more out of like the big situations, and I wish that it was shortened a bit. The first book was perfect for me, but the rest I feel like could have been shortened in a lot of areas to make it not drag on. So that kind of makes me enjoy the TV series more. So far at least. I have no idea how the next book is going to be. I'm really excited to read it though, but I overall wish I enjoyed this series more. I think that it's a 4-star series for me, but there's so many 5-star aspects about it. There is the characters, the world, the magic, all those are 5 stars. But there's a few things that are like 2 stars and 1 stars, like the pacing and the plot in some areas. The plot was overall good, but like in the small areas where it was kind of boring. Anyway, I am glad I read the series, and I will definitely finish it when the next book comes out. I don't know how many more there's coming out, maybe just 1 more. But I did like this series. It just kind of let me down after the first book. That's probably very controversial. I don't know, I'm sorry. But, yeah, that is my overall thoughts on the Game of Thrones series, or the Song of Ice and Fire series. I just keep saying Game of Thrones, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, my Goodreads is linked down below. I think my Instagram is linked down there too, and I will see you next time. Bye!